Talk shoes. Recorded live.
This is Kevin from Ascension Energy Program. We're here with Bill Kirkland, and tonight we're going to talk about the Etheric Water specifically again. And I think mostly its applications perhaps for business, as well as a lot of the feedback we've gotten over the last week or so with the client base. Now, we've only had the water program going on for about 6 weeks now. It's a technology that Bill Kirkland has been playing around for the last 2.5 years, but it's only been until recently have we begin to apply it in earnest and to see what the effects are. Now, Bill's been continuing to make upgrades to the technology from pretty much day to day, increasing the power levels and increasing the amount of elements and items within the water menu, we'll call it. And, formerly we were going to go originally with about 3 or 4 different formulas, and then we realized it was completely unnecessary, and that the water operates sort of like a menu that the body draws out what it needs as it goes along. Now, there's also components to the water which creates a highly charged energetic signature, which, the body is lacking energy, basically, and so the body will literally ingest the frequencies contained within the water, which I think is one of the reasons why it works so well. Unlike homeopathics, which are pretty much, they have energy within them, but they don't have a tremendous amount of energy. And we don't necessarily take them in the quantities that we do to get the dramatic results that we've seen with the water program. Now, the water, essentially, the way we've designed it is, we don't sell you bottles of water. That's sort of like not very cost effective. We thought of that originally, and then we shifted to the philosophy that we can basically deliver it with a link code directly to wherever you are, whether at home or at work or on the road. It doesn't really matter. As long as you have the link code, you can charge water. And we found out you can also charge food. You can charge virtually anything that's liquid-based, basically. And he even had reports that one guy yesterday told me he charged his gas tank in his car, and he reported about a 20% jump in gas mileage. So, anything goes with this stuff. There's an application for even cleaning fluids. I noticed that you charge cleaning fluids, and, the substances all of a sudden are able to cut through grease and things which normally would be very difficult to remove. So there's an action happening to the water molecule that probably Bill explain later. But I've noticed that there are tremendous potential commercial applications as far as, working in restaurants. Certainly it improves the quality of the taste of the food, which I think is a function of the increase in the vibration of the food. It literally starts to taste better. It perhaps is a geometric realigning of the water molecules where they're actually more structured, creating structured water on a level that's probably never been seen before with other technologies. Now, we're creating things that are normally not found in nature, it appears to be. So we have some huge potential for, increased energy levels, certainly increased mental capacity to process information. It seems like just being in the presence of the charged water opens people's minds up where they revert back to sort of like an innocent childlike state. It's very therapeutic. It unleashes like repressions within the subconscious and unconscious mind in a very orderly and beneficial manner, not a chaotic and awkward manner, which is what like drugs and alcohol does. Which often people use as a release valve in order to siphon off all this tremendous pent-up emotional and psychic energy. Now, the water seems to be able to do that, but in a graceful and elegant way, and in a way where the body increases its energy levels over time with continued use of the water. One of the problems we've found with people on the water program is they simply don't drink enough to reach the saturation points, and I think one of the problems with that is, we've been misled into believing, number one, that normal water hydrates the body. So I know as myself as a massage therapist, I was taught right massage school, it's like, oh, you should always drink a lot of water to hydrate the body. Well, I never really saw that as actually having any effect. I mean, I always still felt thirsty and this and that, and I never really felt like I was, completely hydrated And, you know, it didn't really matter if I drank a lot of water, if I didn't. And then as I've learned about water, you know, that most water in its devitalized state doesn't actually hydrate the body. And that essentially death is a function of loss of hydration over a period of time. And as a result of the loss of hydration, the body begins to degrade, the DNA begins to degrade. You literally shrink up like a prune. And certainly towards the end of death, they literally can't even hydrate the body with forced ingestion of liquids, which is what they attempt to do. And that's probably primarily because the water is devitalized to a point like it's no longer usable within the human organism. Now, after watching a DVD by a guy named Dan Nelson, he's basically describing the water as a stargate. And as it draws energy from the zero-point energy or the ether, the water molecule actually shrinks in size. I don't know if that's actually true or not, but it's an analogy for the human body to be able to ingest the frequencies or the energy of the water, and the body begins to hydrate and respond to that. So I believe that water fundamentally, or the loss or death or dying or aging, is a fundamental loss of energy, much like a slow leak in a tire over time that you can't literally repump back to its original shape. And as the tire begins to shrink and distort, it will alter, obviously, the shape of the car, the balance, the alignments of everything will start to get out of whack. You'll get all sorts of DNA replication problems, malfunctions within the physical structure, and it eventually becomes a massive downward spiral and ends up leading into death. Now, you functionally have two states, one of life and one of non-life or loss of energy. And, you know, the water is such a basic element of life. Literally, life comes out of water. That if you are able to energize water and consistently apply it on a regular basis, you may begin to halt and perhaps even reverse the process of disease or aging in general. Now that, you know, we don't really know at this point if that's possible at this moment in time, but we've had some early signs that there have been some massive corrections within the well-being of individuals, both mentally and spiritually, with the use of the water product in conjunction with the bioresonance product. Now, you know, before we had the bioresonance machine, you know, running, the changes on the physical body would take a long, long time. So, you know, the trick was, well, how do we keep people around for 3 to 4 months before they begin to get the effects of the bioresonance program? Well, you know, with the induction of the water program combined with the bioresonance, that's kind of solved that problem. Most people come in and they're mostly physically sick. They're very low in energy. And the water is now the thing I recommend first to people, because the water has the most immediate and dramatic effects on the physical body and the general well-being if taken to saturation. Now, saturation is a kind of funny thing because it's really, you know, it's really kind of hard to determine it unless you've actually experienced it. And it took me probably 3 times with Bill before I understood the concept of saturation. And that was, he basically was muscle testing me and telling me you need to keep drinking more water. And for me, that ended up being about 40 ounces of water before I got the buzz of what would be defined as saturation. And for saturation, for me, it basically was this kind of giddy, euphoric feeling. And then I kind of felt lighter on my feet. My head cleared. You know, I just kind of felt happy for no apparent reason. And then you start like kind of giggling and you're laughing and you don't really know why. But that for me was this general well-being. And once I understood that's what it meant, I kind of committed to the water program in earnest, and then I followed through with it. And so, you know, basically now I drink at least a gallon a day of water. I charge all my foods. I put the link code on the shower. You know, we found out that the water will literally energize the shower. It only takes a little over a minute, and it will descend about 50 feet. So by the time the water comes up from the tank, it's almost fully energized. It's not fully. So, you know, there are ways of using this link code to put it in the refrigerator under food. You know, you can do all sorts of crazy things. And I've also been experimenting with the water in bars. So I charge my beer and I go into a bar, and then over time, if I stay there long enough, it changes the environment where everyone starts to get happy and giddy and childlike. And this has happened time and time and time again.